Welcome to another episode of the Top Corner Podcast. Let me do that. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that one.
4/24. Today's date, we got a good show for y'all.
That's an interesting way to start.
Yeah. Well, today my co-host is Julian. How are you doing today?
Fantastic day. It feels like it just started because there's so much extra garbage to do after this. Just kidding. I mean, there is still a lot to do after this. But, yeah, good day. Can't complain. Great weekend. Relaxed. Ready to hit the ground running.
Yes, sir. Well, let's talk about the new coach of United.
Yes, sir.
You know what's his name? Ruben Amorim. He's the coach of Sporting.
Yep.
And I think he takes duties on the 11th, and he asked Sporting that he would like to coach Sporting against City in the Champions League.
Yeah.
So we'll get. It's a good way to gauge what he's getting into.
Yeah.
And man, he has kind of his record and his stats or managerial stats kind of speaks for himself. Liga Portugal, 165 played game, 128 wins, 23 draws, 14 losses.
Yeah.
And he won two. I think he won in 21 with probably BARCA.
Yeah.
And he won in 2023-24 with Sporting. And he was voted best Liga coach of the Liga Portugal manager of the season and the month.
Yeah.
So,
and I think he is 10 for 10 in his last 10 games. Like, it's pretty these stats are pretty interesting, man. And he's young. I've seen that he is very tactically oriented, very methodical in his coaching style.
Yeah.
A little less a little more controlled than maybe a Ten Hag that lets people go out there and do whatever they want without necessarily having the pedigree to do so. Because even Ancelotti has guys go out there and go, like we've said that about Madrid, that sort of fly, be free.
Yeah.
But you have to have those world-class players in there. And with all due respect to the United side, I mean, no one in there is at that level that those Madrid squads could have done back then of just go be free, express yourself. Yeah.
Well, the one thing that I want just to say is that Amorim is not different from actually Ten Hag when he left Ajax. Their records are kind of similar.
Right.
So that's not impressive. Well, it's impressive as a whole.
But we know now how bad that can go at a certain point.
So until you get there and prove yourself, because again, he will be with the big guys now. You will be facing scrutiny every single game. Everybody's looking at you.
Exactly. Well, and a really good example of that for American listeners or sports supporters, the jump from college football to the pros, not just as a player but as a coach. Nick Saban, one of the very best college head coaches to ever play the sport. His time at the Dolphins in the NFL was abysmal. So it's like you don't immediately, just because you are great in one system, I'm talking about one of the best of all time in one system, get to just walk into a new one and excel immediately. Like there are roadblocks, and sometimes it's just not meant for you. Sometimes you are. I mean, I think Unai Emery even has proven that a little bit of just he's better coaching just under that top tier side, but he can get a lot out of it. He can get as much out of them to be as competitive with those top guys. He just for some reason has trouble coaching those top guys, but doesn't mean he can't bring other guys to that level. He just seems like he can't plug into that system and really flourish there. And there were problems with Arsenal on both sides. I'm not trying to say that he wasn't good enough for Arsenal and that Arsenal had it made in the shade and doing, but you know what I mean? Part of it is what you're allowed to do, and part of it is what you're able to do, like with yourself and and from the top down. So it'll be really interesting to see if he can carry over some of that magic, if the system will allow him to, and then if what he wants to bring to the table is actually good enough to stand in a better league with just better opponents week in, week out.
That will be interesting to see. So let's wait for him and see what he can do. But I have high hopes for him. Now let's talk about Barcelona a little bit. The offside tactic of Barcelona result in 13 goals cancelled. That is, I think, since this season has started. So with that, Madrid probably have 7 of those, and the rest is distributed however it is. And It's just to show for those people complaining about the tactic. It's just to show how. And the one thing about the that the offside trap they do, it's pretty interesting. Just to talk a little bit about it. It's a slightly offside tactic. It's not like a blatant trap that some defense backline will set up for them. Is think about it as a sneaky way of setting the trap without the striker actually knowing. Even if the striker knew it, because it just gets you off a little bit. And
you always think that you have that extra little bit of an edge. But and I mean, we and everyone really, the sporting world, were kind of critiquing Barcelona for using this backline system because, you know, every week it worked. And every week we would still say, well, you can't do that against so-and-so. And it's reasonable to expect that as well. Like it's one of those sort of, you know, like half the things that we say today, which is rooted in fact and consistency, next week can be absolutely ridiculous. And so you can't keep this world of sports that moves so fast. You can't hold people to statements too long because, I mean, you can say something that's factually correct in that moment, and then the next week is the exact opposite. So, definitely. I mean, it was completely reasonable to expect Barcelona to get burnt on that high line against Madrid. Yes. You look at those guys with the pace alone, let alone the world-class finishing from some of those guys. Yeah, that's true. But what you don't expect is that those world-class guys don't show up with that mindset that day, which they usually have. The finishing they didn't show up with that they usually have. So like, there's a lot of stuff going on.
There's a lot of variables. Yeah. Well, another thing is just rumors for now. It's not being confirmed or whatever. But Arsenal might be looking into Kvaratskhelia, bringing him as a striker, and because actually I've always said it, and I say it again and again. Arsenal needs a striker that, in the heat of the moment, when push comes to shove, when things are difficult, no one can score. Everybody hit the defense or the goalpost line or whatever and comes, but you need someone that will put that thing in. You need someone that will make a difference at that position, the strike position, and they still don't have. I think for me, that's one of the things that they should have looked into before even starting the season. But that's the rumor.
And they have been looking at it for some, but they haven't pulled the trigger for some reason. And Kvaratskhelia, even though he predominantly plays left wing, he is equally skilled on both feet. It's pretty wild to see his ability, not only with dribbling but with finishing with both feet. Even though the number 9 is not his traditional role, I see that being able to work for him in those tight spaces because he is very quick on the ball. He has some good pace to him to get past the back line, but more importantly, he's pretty skilled and swift with the ball at his feet in those tight spaces. So I could see that working. I think that Emerim was looking at Kvaratskhelia as well. Like he was it was a rumor that he was interested.
I have a feeling that if that don't work, Kvaratskhelia don't work for United, because he is coaching Sporting and Gyökeres is pretty much cheap right now and he's doing good. I have a feeling that he might go to United with Gyökeres. The Sporting striker that for some reason, I think even Iwan was saying that he thought Arsenal would have tried to go for him. Yeah. Or at least Arsenal should go for Nico Williams, but his release clause is really high right now. Really high. So
yeah. And I think that Kvaratskhelia would work well at United because if you look at, they look pretty solid now that Ten Hag's out of the way. I mean, their effort against Chelsea, it wasn't for lack of trying. It was just, I think it was a little bit sloppy on both sides. Neither team really played the best that they could play, and we don't need to really get into that game itself. But there were a lot of moments there with Rashford on the ball that I just, if you're going to revamp somebody in that front group, it's the left wing. It's Rashford, and that's where Kvaratskhelia is used to playing. Yeah. Whether it's number 9 or on the left wing, he can really provide for a lot of these Premier League sides that are missing a good forward. But it's one of those things you don't want to say it too loudly because I mean obviously they know it, but you're like, yeah, it really would be a shame if United got him. I mean, they need him really bad, but I hope that they don't get him. But it makes a lot of sense for him to go there as well.
Yeah, I think that's something. Well, there's a lot of things that could move though. I know Jamal Musiala contracts will be up either in January or in summer, so that's also a good steal for. No, I wouldn't really say steal because his contract is up, but that will also be a good transfer for anyone that picks the kid.
Truly anyone. Anyone could use him in the side. He kind of plugs in no matter where you go.
That City don't pick him because City might try to rebuild.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the right time for them to want to rebuild. He's perfect for their rebuild, and they've got still a very impressive bench, but they're always going to be trying to get one extra player because they can, and they need it to keep up with what they've been doing. But they don't need it as much as other clubs need it, and so. But truly, he can walk into basically any starting 11. Like you don't replace somebody out and out with him at all times.
Yeah.
But you make room in the formation for him.
Oh, definitely.
You have to.
And the kid is 21, and that's a rising star. Think about Ozil. Think about I feel when I see him, I actually see Di Maria, that nonchalant kind of way of playing, and just kind of ball. So it's really difficult when you are marking him because you really don't. You really don't know what he's gonna do at any point, just because he moves so nonchalantly. The body don't give it, the feet don't give it.
yeah, and he's equally skilled in being able to take shots for himself or hold up play to feed back into the middle or cross in from the wing. Like he is lethal in his ability to do pretty much everything on the ball, not just moving forward, not just finishing.
Yes,
you can't let him backtrack into the midfield to feed the ball out to somebody else just as much as you want to be able to close him down on the wing, because it's just as dangerous for him to distribute the ball.
That was it for your news and rumors. Do you have anything?
No, mine was Kvaratskhelia, and 90 million was what the rumored price was for that United move.
Yeah, I think that's also because of his release clause.
Yeah.
So I think he was urging his club to decrease his release clause to 60. No, gotcha. I'm not saying that I'm just saying that the price that they probably put up there is also because
that wasn't clear about whether it was a release clause or whether it was just like the market value.
Clause is like 85.
Gotcha.
So he actually wants the club to decrease his release clause just because I think in his head, if it's 60, a club can trigger it.
Which is you hope that he doesn't make any sort of early moves. This Napoli side, I think, is kind of underrated. They've actually bounced back from last season, and they look a bit more in form like they did when they won the title. Not saying they will win it again, because Inter, I think, are still, they're a little slow to get going, but they're always pretty consistent. But no, Napoli have been squeaking away wins, and I would hate to see anybody want to rush out in January, because I really do want to see what they end up doing late in the season.
Yeah. Another thing, well, actually, let's go into the game. Arsenal, Newcastle. It is Newcastle, Arsenal, Newcastle. I don't care, but they played. I think they played at Newcastle.
They did. Yeah.
What did you think about the game? The one thing I would just say before we give it 4 minutes of analysis, because we're on time crunch. But I would say this. Arteta kind of got a little bit of his medicine, in the sense that they had set up a low block. Newcastle did. They also did a little bit of this. They disrupted a lot of play, but a lot of foul waste time and all of that. And I think that that's kind of what Newcastle went with. And you can actually see that Arsenal really lacks. They lack a striker, and they lack an Odegaard. Because I feel like this type of games, that's why I say they need a striker, because this are the type of games that you will put something in the air just for someone in the box to just magically put it in.
Well, and especially even without him, they operated with about 65% of the ball.
Yes.
So if you are going to just sit back, Odegaard is that kind of guy that doesn't like you take your time. You don't need to scramble. You can high press when you turn the ball over. Sure, that's fine. But at the end of the day, with somebody like that's able to unlock these defenses, if you want to sit back in your own box and wait for it to happen, that's fine, because it likely will happen.
Yeah.
But there's nobody there right now that's able to unlock those defenses. So the low block is a little bit more effective. You're asking for Declan Rice to be more technical on the ball, which he can be, but when the game is much wider.
Yes.
When the game is much wider, he can do a little bit more. Otherwise, you just kind of need him to sit back as a CDM and kind of just interrupt the flow of the opponent's build-up. But you can really tell that there's a lack of creativity moving forward, especially. I think it just shows how important he is to that side, and you don't want any club to be that reliant on one player, but most clubs are in a way. Season to season, it sometimes changes.
Yeah.
But we see it with Manchester City without Kevin De Bruyne or Rodri in any given moment. Really, we saw it with Kevin De Bruyne when he was out. I think it was last season, and then maybe 2 seasons before that, where they can hold things together, but there's a lack of creativity, there's a lack of ingenuity and spark leading up, and you just have to rely on your raw talent to then finish the game, and that's what they were able to do without the creator there. And that shows the difference between a Havertz and a Haaland, a Mahrez and a Martinelli. You know what I mean? Like you see the difference in that, where you can overcome having your key creative player out. The offensive build up, and just the lack of the bench for those creative roles. Just who else is a creator in that squad?
Yeah, it'll be difficult. Yeah. And I also think that they have to start thinking also deep about the left wing. And I would say this to say, there's not a Saka on the other side. So the one thing that I've come to realize, Martinelli usually runs straight in this left wing. On the right wing, so the wing that is actually guarding him. So most of the time, now that I can see clearly, he really doesn't technically try to beat the guy, but it's the stop. So he will spring, stop a little bit, hoping he beats you when he starts back sprinting. So if you meet someone that also has the same amount of fitness and cardio like you, it becomes difficult.
Because he's not the fastest in terms of a long sprint, but in those 5-yard bursts, he is. And so yes, you're right.
So Livramento did a great job at just keeping him. And now that I feel like if you had someone like Saka on the other side, it could have helped too. Someone that can. The one thing I always said about Saka, I think he's the embodiment of keeping it to the basics as a winger. So if they had the same thing on the other side, things could have worked better in Jeffrey.
Yeah, because being a winger is not just about blitzing all the way down the side of the pitch and then crossing it at the last minute right at the touchline, or consistently cutting back inside to put it on your dominant foot and curl another. Like, he can do both of those things very well, and he's so skilled at being able to pick between those two. I mean, those are essential roles. But he's so good at it that it's hard to stop him. Martinelli does not quite have that, but also it's really this season where he's shown, for some reason, some sort of lack of form. Because, he's not doing anything tactically or performatively different in terms of what his assets bring, but the quality of those assets have diminished. You know what I mean? It's not like he's trying a new style of play and it's not working. It's just, he's doing exactly what he did. For some reason, though, there's the lack of end product there, whether it be the goals or whether it be the assists or bringing the ball back into to the middle just outside the box for any sort of build-up. I mean, and I don't think that Trossard is as effective in that sort of split two-man forward role. I think that he is a little bit more of an attacking. I think that he and Odegaard sort of work together to break down that low block together. He's just a little too high. He's a little too high up for that to work.
So and it's a really, really apparent and very vivid. You can see when you see Arsenal playing that they need, from open play creation, it has really decreased, especially when you don't have Odegaard, and they rely mostly on set pieces. When I know all what set pieces mean, so it is really difficult. So
and I don't think that Marino has been playing. I've said it for 3 weeks now. I think he's not plugging in and excelling at an immediate speed with the rest of the squad. I'm not a big fan of the Thomas Partey on the right wing deal. They're doing that to cover space and allow Marino and Rice to get time together. But at the end of the day, you need to prioritize Ben White, and as far as I know, he was healthy enough to start. So he should have started, and he didn't. When he came in, he didn't even come in for the right. He came in to replace Timber. But Timber's still playing well. I do like him on that left side. I don't think that the formation worked either. Anyway, moving on from that.
United played Chelsea, which it has become one of the most boring matchup, not because they're not great team, but because most of the time when they meet, it's always a draw. So and the one thing I would say, I can now that Erik ten Hag has been sacked, is I really want to see what different or how different United will look like without him. Another thing I would say, it's Garnacho gotta go by in some sort of camp and start training his legs, because he couldn't score a goal to save his life, and he had numerous possibilities,
and he turned over the ball a couple of times as well in situations that he shouldn't have. So it wasn't a great performance for him, and he has always had some trouble finishing, but it's not for lack of trying. I will say that even still, he does seem like one of the guys on the field that is working the hardest, and at the end of the day, that doesn't matter as much as the results.
Yes,
the trying. But
I would say I wouldn't crucify him because he's still young. Because the same thing that Vinicius had the same problem in Madrid, and
2.5 or 3 seasons. Yeah,
Benzema that just congratulated him and said, "Oh boy, you should have won the Ballon d'Or." At that time, so many
don't give him the ball. He's playing for the other team.
So he's young. He got time. He's 21, 22. There's no telling where he will be in the next 3-4 years. But at least
he's 20. He just turned 20 in July.
Golly,
so he's young,
making a lot of money. And now I'm saying, but I just want to say that there is a lot of growth from him. So there's a lot of room.
I didn't know that he was that young. I thought he was 21 or 22, like you said. I was leaning more toward 21, but he just turned 20. So
that just shows that these guys are playing at a high level too young now. So the game has changed a lot. And I'm just another thing is tracking back. I think the seniors at United, especially when you get to a team like that, right? Sometimes they lack the mentality of killers. They lack the mentality of when it's hard, we have to keep pushing. They like that. They mostly have a small club mentality for a big club like United. And when the game is as it was with Chelsea, there's no pushing back. There's no warrior mentality. You can see Garnacho, and that's why Casemiro had that. He was screaming at Garnacho when Garnacho had that turnover, and he didn't track back, knowing well that Casemiro will be beat. Because he's not as fast. So you can
and Garnacho needed to put a little bit more pressure.
Yes, I mean, he saw him jogging.
Yeah. Even if you're not going to be able to really get in, get a leg in on a challenge, you need to make sure that he can't cut it back to the outside. You have to, narrow that channel.
What are you jogging all about, bro? No.
When you turn that ball over in wide open space, you had so much room on the outside of the box to let something develop, and it was a boneheaded pass that was still well intercepted. But at the end of the day, now there's just yards of space for the opponent, and you're not really tracking back. Are you?
And I think also the seniors got to do their duties, but it's difficult because the seniors are also inconsistent because people like Casemiro, Rashford. I said Rashford. Rashford. And Bruno played very well. I mean, he was all over, but a little bit inconsistent. If these guys were consistent enough, they would have been week in, week out telling these young guys that when you get on that field, you leave everything there.
Yeah,
they pay you the big bucks.
But apparently Fernandez is a little too preoccupied with. I think that he went to the news and said that he feels responsible for the Erik ten Hag stuff, and it's like, what do you do? Move on. It's just like he picks the I just don't think that he's a very good leader. And
that's another thing.
He picks the wrong things to talk about at all times and feel. And if he's doing that in public in front of the cameras, what is he prioritizing poorly in the locker room and on the training ground as well?
You know what's crazy? I feel like Rashford will be a better leader if you give him if he's the captain, and probably might enhance or might get back, or he might get back to Rashford that we knew in a sense, or be more responsible. So it will bring out in him the incentive. I want to play.
It feels like that's gone though. It feels like he had the opportunity when he was younger, and he felt like that could have happened.
Yes,
but now it feels a little bit like that. Lack of effort now is is part of his personality, not just a phase. I think that it was allowed to sort of grow into him as a person. And I mean, obviously, I'm not talking about him with his family or his friends or any of that bullshit, because like they do that too. They're like, oh, players are human beings. Take it easy. It's like I'm not saying he's a bad person.
No,
I'm not saying he's a lazy person. What I'm saying is it does feel like there was a before and after phase.
Yes.
Where he sort of succumbed to some bad influences in terms of work ethic. And we're still talking about it,
So yeah, I am leaning towards that, and but I still have hopes for him. I really want to see what the new guy is gonna bring to the table. And man, Bournemouth has been doing something a little bit crazy.
Giant killers, aren't they?
How do you beat Arsenal? You draw with Aston Villa. You beat City. So that's pretty interesting.
Was it the Vitality Stadium?
I'm telling you,
that's like the new Gladiators arena, man. They're wild out there.
If you go out there, it's like they have everything. They have some sort of secret in that stadium for every clubs that show up there.
To start packing some weapons or something. Who do they play next? Actually, keep talking. I'm gonna pull up their schedule.
Okay, the one thing I wanted to just mention is the fact that they've been taking these wins and taking this point from these teams, and for I don't think Arsenal should have let that be happen to them, especially if you are trying to win this league this year.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is Liverpool is first with 25 points and Arsenal is fifth with 18 points. And guess what? In this modern era of champions, Premier League, I wouldn't even say modern era, but the last couple of years, you can take it from 2014 or 15 to now. It's been pretty difficult for a club to come back with an 8-point deficit, or 7. So, and if you're Arsenal trying to win this thing, which, hey, like Patrick Silva said last week, watching Arsenal, I always feel like an episode of Netflix where you always wait for the next series, the next episode, because it's always next year. And I felt like this year could have been a little bit their year, in the sense that City is not playing as great or dominant football as City played 3-4 years ago.
And Liverpool weren't supposed to be playing as well as they are. They weren't again at the start
usually
of the season,
when you change leadership and all that happened.
Yeah.
But the difference that I see is because I think Liverpool is playing with a warrior mentality.
Yes.
They're not really, how will I say, in terms of if you had to just put the tactics and talent, because it takes for a while for a coach to develop his own personality of football, right? For now, it's not yet apparent, but what is apparent is their mind, where their mind is. They have set their eyes on winning, on league titles. So that's what they're playing with.
Slot seems to have really done a good job at not only just implementing, he himself is a different person, a different leader, and it takes time to identify with that, but he picked the perfect elements of what Klopp represented.
Yes.
And maintained those things in a way that then shapes partly his identity, that his players can gravitate toward and sort of understand him at an earlier time, at a shorter level. I mean, that same winning mentality. It's like that's exactly what Klopp did. Yeah. You picked all the right pieces to bring over to bring into your managerial style. I'm not saying that he wasn't that before, but at least he identified with that and understood that. And I mean, that's one of the most seamless transitions in terms of previous quality.
Yeah.
Expectations of next quality.
That's true.
And the maintaining of that old way of playing. Like they're really getting it done. So Bournemouth, we'll keep track on that. Let's see. Next 3 home games are Brighton, Tottenham, and West Ham. They can win all those. Yeah. If they beat Arsenal, they beat Arsenal, drew with Villa, and beat City at home,
and they play very well with City. I'm telling you that just track it. Actually, I don't know how things are being done in that world, but if I was Arsenal, I'll kind of put a tracker on just tracker and just kind of look at it and see what will happen when the winter transfer opens, because the striker was bodying these City guys like they were kids. What's his name? Semedo.
Yep.
He was killing them. So I mean,
and you'll pay. So he in their system is a left. He's a left wing, but he was up pretty high quite a bit. Him and Evan Nilsson were very high up on that line. I mean, you'll pay.
How old is he?
He is.
He's probably if he's in 20 to 25.
He's 24.
See,
grab him.
He's still there. He probably hasn't even gotten his prime. I'm grabbing him, and he's cheap. Because if another club grabs him now, or a top club grabs him now, and he goes there and kill it for 1 or 2 years, even for 1 year, his market value is up.
Well, because he's playing in the exact position that Martinelli plays in. He's playing in the exact same position that if you were to break the bank and pay for a Nico Williams.
Yes.
So go ahead and grab this guy. Have him rotate, and again in these matchups, he's proven that not only can he hang out on that wing, because they weren't running a 3-man front. Yeah. It was a 1-man front, and then the wingers were out in the midfield, kind of a bit more defensive because they're playing against Man City. He was still able to get up into into that back line and really play a forward position and excel against a very good back line. So he shows versatility in terms of what a left midfield / winger can do in terms of what's expected from them from an offensive standpoint.
Before we do our top 10 of all the clubs in the leagues, I would just want to get your an impression on this. So Klopp took an international job of really international, but it's a Red Bull. It's a Red Bull job. Yeah. For what he represents, just kind of summarizing a people's person. People felt like he cared for the people, and at every club he was at, it wasn't. You didn't feel like he was a money hungry kind of coach. Always trying to grab the best of the best players because you want to win it. But he always did bring out the best of all the players. It wasn't necessarily the not saying that the players that he had at some point did not become top, but before him getting those players, they were not top players.
It was system, it was ideology before price tag and notoriety.
And a lot of people identify, a lot of people also like an underdog, especially when he was at Dortmund. But the fact that he took this Red Bull, a lot of people don't like Red Bull for what they represent in the sense of, money hungry people and always puts your hands in every sport and driving the market. It becomes not for the people anymore, but for people that have money. And he faced a little bit of backlash on that and said, well, he shouldn't have taken that job, because now we cannot see where his heart is at.
No, I don't know, because he's not a manager, is he? He's not coaching.
No, he's not coaching. So he's just the president of whatever Red Bull in soccer. So it means he cannot have a say on how things go as far as Red Bull is around the world, which is clubs that Red Bull sponsor or own.
Yeah, I don't know. As long as you're not contaminating your legacy by doing the same tasks and representing the same thing in a different space, it's fine with me. To me, that's like the innovative, talented young filmmaker that goes on to win a major prize in the European festival circuit or whatever, and becomes a staple within that. And what they represent is, something outside the Hollywood bubble that reflects high quality consistently for a long time. And then he retires and then goes to work at, gets a producer's job position at a higher studio.
Yes.
It's like, you're not doing the same things that you were doing. You're not destroying what you represent, and you're not contaminating your old market space either. If you decided that you were going to then make a production company that we're trying to replace the films that you were working on in that ecosystem with top dollar nonsense, doing whatever, then that's upsetting. But you're not really treading on your old ground. You're not really defiling the landscape that you helped build. You're doing your own thing at a different stage of the business itself in a different area.
Yeah,
I think that you should be able to do that if you want to. It's late stage in your career.
Yeah.
Just go.
I think people are not bound by whatever you knew them to be, because at some points human beings change. The one you challenge, they necessarily don't want to stay in what you know them to be as. Some people don't want to be coached for more than 10, 15 years. Some people, that's all your life, and even in life, in a sense, you can bash someone to want to do something different. You are not your parent. You didn't put them on this earth, and when they go, they will not go with you. That's it.
Well, and then one more example, because I do feel like it's different in terms of the positions, and as long as he's not doing the same things. If he was selling, hybrid cars instead of like these luxury cars, because those are and then he makes a lot of money, he gets a lot of accolades for producing these hybrid cars, and then he just goes and gets an executive's position for Jaguar or something. As long as you're not using that power to then destroy that market that you helped build to amplify yourself, as long as you're just working within those, because not every sphere of business, even in the same market, really interact with each other. Jeep is not really interacting with Lamborghini.
Yes,
they're completely different things. So as long as you're not trying to kill the Jeep market with Lamborghini, you're not really impeding on anybody there. And it's I understand at first glance, it's like, oh, well, now he's selling luxury cars. Because he did what he wanted to do.
Especially a lot of clubs in Germany, he has a big German, he's German, but a lot of people in Germany felt like it's betrayal because some of them don't like Red Bull. I think Red Bull have a club there, I forgot which one, and since Leipzig, since they've been in the club, they feel like the club hasn't been for the people, but more for whatever, money or whatever, right? And let's get this straight. If you want to watch the Champions League, man, I'm telling you, go catch the Champions League this
tomorrow.
Week.
Two big matchups tomorrow.
Big matches. What are you watching? You know what's crazy? I feel like little Juventus might be something. It's like one of those matches that
I thought you said little Juventus. I was
no,
shit, that's
Juventus.
Funny. Lille,
I feel like it's one of those because Lille's doing kind of good.
Little old Juventus kicking around. No, but man, I can't decide if I'm going to watch Madrid and Milan or Liverpool Leverkusen. Because I want to see, because Milan are struggling, and I want to see exactly what. And they had that drama, the PK drama. You remember that from a couple weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
So they're one of those teams that are playing like shit right now, but they're still interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Madrid are kind of that way as well. They're not playing very well, but they're fun to watch. Whereas Liverpool and Leverkusen, like, that's what I wanted to see in the Europa League final. I was really hoping that we would get that at some point. We didn't get it.
Yeah.
Yep. Both high energy teams. Leverkusen's not playing as well. I think they've drawn 5 of their last 5 games or something.
Yeah.
So those are really, really 2 big ones, and I can't decide. I'll probably just wait until I'm sitting in front of the TV
and decide,
and just click one and just deal with it.
I will keep track of Lille Juventus Sporting City, because that's the game Amorim wants to gauge and see where he will stack, among these guys.
Yep.
And AC Milan, Madrid, I know the outcome. Madrid will beat them like dogs. Because they've lost.
I don't know if it's gonna be like dogs, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know what it. I mean, like, because they will move on past them.
If they lost 4-0, so they need to redeem themselves, and they're playing at Madrid. If you play,
I get that.
And
I mean, Tomori's kind of showing that he's not cut out for it. That Milan backline's pretty rough at the moment, and it doesn't seem like the forwards are on the same page either. Like, they've got a lot of internal drama right now. It feels like an episode of Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Liverpool, Bayern Leverkusen, I want to watch that game. Wednesday too, there's some interesting matchup, but not enough for me. Oh no, Paris Saint-Germain, Atletico Madrid. That would be a good one.
Inter Milan and Arsenal as well, which is the one that I'll be watching.
Yeah, Barcelona, and I can't pronounce the name, so I already know Barcelona will win by 4. Well, Inter Arsenal is a pretty good one.
Yes.
And let's go top 10 overall. I'm talking all the leagues in Europe. Well, you can put all that. You can put Asia, Africa, whatever, but I don't think they will match up in here.
I think I would agree with that. Yeah. Well, you go first. You go first. For a change.
For first, Barcelona, because lately Barcelona has been killing it. They have. I mean, I think the average win, if you had to, this is just me saying my opinion because I don't have the numbers or crunched up the numbers, but I would say it to be 2 or 3 because they always beat all these teams by 2, 3, 3-1. Against Espanyol was 3-1, Madrid 4-0, and the other guys 3-5. So that's it. Barcelona. The second one for me will be Bayern, although they lost, but they're more consistent in terms of wins. And they also win by a large amount. The third will be I want to go with City, but it's not like it's crazy. There's a lot of draws, and it's not City as we've known them to be.
Yep.
Fourth will be Madrid. Fifth will be I want to say Paris Saint-Germain. I know a lot of people are not keeping track of them, but they're actually killing it in the league right now. And they look to be independent of Mbappe. So I think the transition to that has been better.
It has seemed smoother than you expected.
Yeah.
Than we all expected, I believe.
Yes, because you would have thought, because there's no Mbappe, it would disrupt. But now and that's what I always felt, that the way they play, when Mbappe is not there, if they play that way, it will be, better to watch in a whole. Yeah. And then you start putting, safe will be Liverpool, Arsenal 7. 8 for me will be, I want to put Tottenham, but Leipzig is doing good. I would say Leipzig. Then Tottenham.
You had Liverpool at 6th.
Yeah.
You said, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Liverpool. This is Liverpool.
Yeah, Liverpool, because I'm taking the overhaul for people who are not tracking other leagues, So not just taking the Champions League. And what was that, 9? Nice is really killing it. If you guys haven't, go track what Nice is doing. Yeah. Nice is really killing it. But I'll put I want to put Aston Villa, and 10 will be let's put, I don't know even what I can put 10.
Leverkusen.
Yeah, I can do Leverkusen.
Or Napoli. Because those are 2 that are in my bottom half that weren't in yours.
I think the 10 will be Napoli now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Them over Leverkusen.
Give them yours.
Yep. So for 1, I do have Liverpool.
Yeah. As first?
Yes. Only because week in, week out, they are playing tougher opponents.
Yeah.
They are undefeated in the Champions League. So is Villa, which is wild. That's wild to say that.
Yeah.
But 2, obviously, very clearly, Barcelona.
Yeah.
Especially because of what they've been doing recently. 3, Manchester City.
Okay.
I still think that even though they're not hitting those exact same marks, it shows. It's not that they're playing badly. It's just that they're not playing as godlike as they were before. So we then tend to underrate them.
I think City was second for me. I think.
Yeah, 4, Inter Milan. They've for the last 10 years it feels like they've just been doing this thing where they rack up wins, and we don't talk about them enough because we're talking about another team that maybe has a bit more flash.
Yes.
But they always just impress late. Like, not that they get better late in the season, but by the end you see the standings and all the competitions that they're in, and you go, oh wow,
yeah,
they did kind of go pretty far in everything that they did. Number 5, Bayern Munich.
Okay.
Number 6, Real Madrid.
Yeah.
Number 7, Arsenal.
Okay.
Number 8, PSG. Number 9, Napoli. And for 10, Leverkusen.
Nice. Yeah, that's
because Leverkusen's not. I mean, they're drawing, but they're not losing. They're not making a mockery of what they represented last year either. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But and Napoli is bouncing back and impressing, and PSG is impressing me as well, actually.
Yeah.
Because like you said, we were expecting some sort of disarray.
Yes. The record is not far from City. Same kind of thing. They just
different
lost
leagues
one,
though.
actually.
Different leagues, but yes.
No, yeah, I'm just saying
yes.
record. Yeah. Like City City lost 2 games actually, but they just lost 1. But they had 2 draws.
One of those was to Bournemouth. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, yeah.
Well, let's wrap this up. Round of applause.
Hit him with that shit.
Yes.
Hit him in the face.
Like I said, go watch us on all platforms. Subscribe. Turn on your bell notification.
Spotify star review.
Oh yes, do all of that, and we will see you guys next week. Go watch the Champions League, motherfuckers.
Oh, you just said that.
Yeah, I just left them with something. Bye.
Wow.